is this even an episode? This is the bar banter college playoff special,
Yeah.
and part one, we'll call it, because I got to tease something that I got in the works, but it's not ready for tonight. But we wanted to come on and say some things about this. The what was released and what the playoff is. So we have our 12 teams, we have our playoff set. Well, like, here we'll put up what the bracket
Yeah.
is. So Indiana's number one, obviously.
Yeah.
13-0, big win in the Big Ten championship game. That's a no-brainer. Ohio State, they just basically flip-flop,
That's
close
all it
game.
was. That's all it
All
was.
that stuff. That's all that is. Georgia stays at 3 and Texas Tech stays at 4. No big surprise there. No arguments about any of it. That's, it is what it is. You got Oregon at 5.
Yep, they stayed where they were at.
And then you got Ole Miss staying where they were at 6, despite not having a coach or having a brand new coach.
Right.
You got A&M that moved down to 7 after that Texas loss. You got Oklahoma at 8. Okay, and no issues with any of that either, right? It may be a little bit on the Ole Miss side, right? Like, what is your thought? Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. They hire one of their coordinators, so they didn't bring somebody in from the outside or whatever. But here's where it's at, right? Like, you have. Like, Lane Kiffin has nothing to do with this anymore. They, like other situations, the coaches are sticking around, but Lane Kiffin has nothing to do with this anymore. You got Pete Golding, who's now the coach, and what do you think that should have moved Ole Miss?
I think it's different considering that it was a promotion from within, and it's a guy who has been there all season, right? So it's. I guess you could kind of say it's somewhat of a demotion, right? But like it's not something drastic, right? It's not like you're right. Like they didn't bring in somebody from the outside who had not been there all season and doesn't know what they're doing. They also didn't, it's a different situation, I guess, because people keep bringing up, Florida State when Francois went down and then they got knocked out even though they were undefeated and all this other kind of stuff. Like we had brought that up before. You mentioned, but well, it was a 14 playoff at the time, right? So if it would have been a 12-team playoff at the time, Florida State would have still been in.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. You can't really compare that anymore. I mean, listen, Ole Miss, their new coach now was there the whole season, so he's just a part of all those wins as anybody else, right? So I think that them staying there, that's fine. I don't have any problems with that, and I don't think they should be punished for it either. But I
1 through 8, you're good.
I'm good, honestly. With 1 through 8, I'm good. I think this is where it starts to get out of control now.
Yeah,
are these last ones?
And you're right, to your point. Like, they made the decision with Florida State a year ago, or was 2 years ago, or whatever. I'm old, I can't remember what it was. But because they were down to their third string quarterback. But I thought that was kind of funky too, because Ohio State won a national championship, and I think it was 15 or 12 or whatever it was with a third string quarterback.
Yeah, with Cardale Jones.
So you know what I mean. And here again, here's where we're starting to see some inconsistency with the playoff committee, because I think the playoff committee is an absolute joke.
Yeah.
I think college football is an absolute joke at this point in time. There's a lot of reasons for it. And again, part 2 of our college football playoff special, I have developed, I'm in the process of developing how to save college football. We're going to revamp the playoff system, revamp the whole stupid conferences, revamp the NIL, revamp the transfer portal, revamp the schedule on when coaches can leave and National Signing Day and all that other kind of stuff. Because that's the other big issue, right? Like, I mean, when coaches get hired, they have to get hired now because of National Signing Day,
Which
right?
is so stupid.
Penn State got screwed over because it took them forever to hire. They didn't hire Matt Campbell until after National Signing Day, so they were ranked last in the FBS as far as signings, because who's going to sign because they don't know who the coach is, right?
Right.
So you have to hire somebody and put a staff in place prior to National Signing Day. And I mean, you look at Brian Hartline, who is the OC for Ohio State. He's working on building a staff at USF while also trying to get ready for the Big Ten championship game.
Which is why we only put up 10 points. That's exactly why we only put up 10 points.
Last year with Chip Kelly, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You've got I've mentioned this before. You shouldn't be allowed to recruit and interview and do anything if a season is still going on and there are still games to be played. Yes, Indiana is a great team. Indiana is going to win a lot of games in this playoff. I think that they're going to be a favorite, of course. They absolutely.
You could see a rematch in the championship game. I mean,
right. You could. Their defense played fantastic and they shut us down. However, Ohio State's putting up more than 10 points had Hartline focused on that game rather than interviewing with Kentucky, interviewing with USF, getting the job at USF, and also starting to, get that ball rolling. You can't do both. And I think that he neglected the Big Ten championship game because, he's like, it's Ohio State, like, we're good, these guys are good, but it's one of those things you can't do. And it's the same thing we saw.
There's just not enough time in a day for anybody.
Exactly.
I don't
you
care
can't
who
do
you
it.
are.
And we're going to see a similar situation now with Ole Miss, probably. It might be a little bit different, but a similar situation. Like, you shouldn't be able to go out and grab coaches from teams that are still in an active season and still in active seasons that are making a push for a national championship. It'd be one thing, right, if you went out and you grabbed a coach when they were, 3-9 or whatever, right? But you're going and you're grabbing teams that are ranked top 5 in the country and you're pulling their coaches before the conference championship weekend even happens. I mean, you should not be able to do that. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Indiana. They played a great game. They are a really good team. I just think, we know what the Ohio State Buckeyes are. They're not a 10-point team on offense. That's just not what it is. That team just doesn't put up 10 points regularly, and that's it, right? So it has to come down to that.
You and I had talked about this prior to the game and said, there's precedent for still having an offensive coordinator and still working on the game plan and still working with the guys. But in game, the head coach takes over the play calling duties. You know what I mean? And we talked about it. Should Ryan Day have taken over the play calling duties? And it looked for a little bit there. It looked like he almost was, but I don't know. Again. But here's the thing. That game absolutely didn't matter to anything.
No, it didn't.
Right? Like, it really didn't. And this is going to kind of be a little bit of a trend here as to these conference championships that are a joke. Yeah. And in all reality, we talked about before we started recording, we talked about teams opting out of bowl games and stuff like that. I think you're going to see teams opt out of these conference championship games because it does you no good. It's only downside, and we're going as we progress in this, we're going to show you why. And it's ridiculous. And not to mention that these conferences to begin with. Look, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA are in the Big Ten. Like, are we really calling that Big Ten? Are we really calling them Big Ten teams? Like, stop it. The Big 12 changes every single year. The Pac-12 has 2 teams, and now it's going to be a completely different conference next year. The ACC changes teams every single year. The SEC's adding teams and all this others. Like, these conferences aren't the same year in, year out. So conferences, to me, are a joke. Conference championships are a joke, and we're going to show you exactly why, because number 9, you have 3-loss Alabama.
Yeah. Notre Dame should be in that spot.
3-loss Alabama. Now, you say, well, that's only because they had to play the extra game. Okay, but you got blown out in it.
Mm-hmm. So BYU gets punished for getting blown out in a conference championship. BYU gets punished for getting blown out in a conference championship, but Alabama doesn't. BYU has 2 losses to the same team, and they got punished for losing to Texas Tech in the conference championship. But
and that's
Alabama
the point that we're going to get into. We're going to get to that as we finish this out. But let's just so Alabama loses the conference and nothing happens to them. There's no
They stayed at 9.
repercussions. They stayed at 9. Now, the committee has set a precedent there. They said, you know what? We're not going to penalize you for having to play an extra game, right? They said, we're going to take it off of your 12-game schedule, and that's how we're going to rate you going forward, right?
Only for Alabama, though.
Remember that. Remember that. Okay, so now we have number 10 is Miami. All of the conversation, right? All the conversation. Miami, Notre Dame, Miami, Notre Dame. They played head-to-head. And Miami won by 3 points. First game of the year. Notre Dame had a freshman quarterback. Obviously, these teams are the exact same teams they were in week 1, right? Well, let's look at week 1 and look back at your number 9 team, Alabama, that lost to Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to penalize them for losing in a championship game, and we're not going to penalize them for having a bad loss in week 1 because that was week 1, and their body of work as they went on, they beat Georgia and they had some good wins and stuff like that throughout the year, right? So again, we're setting a precedence, right? Also, when these BS rankings came out week in, week out on Tuesday nights and everything else, the committee had Notre Dame ahead of Miami, ahead of Miami, ahead of Miami, ahead of Miami. Why didn't head-to-head matter in those weeks? But now all of a sudden, when both teams are sitting home and nothing happens,
now it matters.
All of a sudden, that head-to-head matters and Miami jumps.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Listen. Just make it make sense. Okay? Because I'll tell you what, to me, the bigger argument between whether or not Notre Dame should be in is with BYU and with Vanderbilt, not with Miami.
Yeah.
Miami stumbled with 2 bad losses throughout the year.
Yeah.
And they had that win in week 1 when we know, of course, because of Alabama, who's number 9 in the playoffs, with the bad loss to Florida State, we know that week 1 doesn't hold a lot of water because teams in week 1 and week 12 are completely different football teams.
Completely different football teams.
So let's continue on with the inconsistencies, right? Okay. So now we have number 11. We have to put in a group of 5 team, don't we? We have to. Why do we have to? Tulane is in, and Tulane is sitting there, a 2-loss team. Yeah, one of their losses was to Ole Miss, but they had a loss where they got blown out by 22 points to University of Texas San Antonio.
And they're in the playoff.
It has to be in the playoff. Let's go through some of their powerful, their best win. Their best win was against Northwestern in week 1 again. South Alabama. Oh, they had a win against Duke, who I guess is a conference champion. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Tulsa, East Carolina, Army, Memphis, Florida Atlantic, Temple, Charlotte, North Texas. It's a powerhouse out there in Tulane. That's a powerhouse. That's a team. That's an absolute juggernaut of a schedule right there, and they absolutely deserve to be in the playoffs.
Ole Miss is going to beat them by 60. That game's going to be over at halftime.
Ole Miss already beat them by 35 earlier in the year.
Yeah, and they're going to do it again, if not by more now, because Ole Miss has only gotten better since then. And you can say what you will about the coach situation. Again,
they're going to play for the guy.
They didn't bring in some Yahoo off the street to finish a season out. They promoted a guy who was there the whole entire time. So in all reality, nothing much is changing within that coaching staff. He's been there the whole time. The players have known him the whole time. They trusted him. They've trusted him the whole time. It's not anything to. I really don't think it's going to make much of a difference, right? They're going to blow them out there, and it's at Ole Miss too. At home, they're going to blow them out. It's going to be a playoff game. It's going to be. I mean, it's ridiculous. So then you jump to 12.
So it gets better, right?
Yeah.
So it gets better because at 12, well, Duke won the ACC championship, but they've got 5 losses. So we have to take the 2 highest ranked, right? And James Madison was ranked 25. They were ranked ahead of Duke, and they won their conference, right? What even is their conference? Nobody even knows what their conference is. Okay, and so now we have to take James Madison James Madison, let's go through their schedule. So they had one loss, and that was to Louisville, also a team that beat Miami. Okay, so you know that Miami lost to. But they went through their schedule of beating Weber State, Liberty, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, Old Dominion, Texas State, Marshall, App State. Oh, they got the big win against Washington State because they're a powerhouse, and Coastal Carolina and Troy. And
That's
this
a
team
tough schedule.
has to be in the playoff.
That's a gauntlet. They ran through a gauntlet there.
So now we're looking at the first two out. Let's look at the first two out. Notre Dame and BYU. You're trying to tell me that Tulane and James Madison should be in this playoff over Notre Dame and BYU because of some conference stupid thing?
Because they play in a high school. They play in a high school conference.
But you told us as the committee that the conference championship doesn't mean anything because you left Alabama at 9 after they got blown out in their conference championship.
Yeah.
But now it matters because you have to have conference champions in over Notre Dame and BYU. And I'm not even talking, listen, let's bring Vandy into the mix, a 2-loss Vandy team. Let's bring the 3-loss Texas team into the mix.
Since we're putting 3-loss teams in there, let's bring them back in now.
Yeah, apparently 3-loss teams, it's okay because a 3-loss Texas team has 3 top 10 wins. You know what I'm saying? So and their losses, look, they lost to Georgia just like Alabama did. They lost to Ohio State. They had the bad loss to Florida. Okay, but wait a minute. You're going to penalize them for a bad loss to Florida, but you're not going to penalize Alabama for a bad loss to Florida State? It doesn't make sense. And now we're stuck watching JMU going to Oregon. And what do you think Oregon's going to do to JMU?
They might put up 70. Oregon might put up 70.
With their third string.
Yeah. Yeah, JMU is going to go to Eugene there, and then that's going to be real, real good. So we're going to have Oregon and Texas Tech. Listen, Alabama-Oklahoma is a good matchup. It is a good matchup. I like that matchup. I think that'll be a fun game, and we already saw it. Oklahoma won. That'll be a fun game. However, you know what else would have been a fun game? Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas, Oregon, Vanderbilt, Oregon, BYU, Oregon, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Texas, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, BYU, Ole Miss. Those would have been fun games. Those would have been really fun games.
Absolutely. And here's the other argument too, right? Like, okay, so you could sit there and call me a Notre Dame homer, Notre Dame fan and everything else like that or whatever. Let's take Notre Dame out of it. Just so that we can have this conversation, because I know every dumbass is going to jump on and say, just join a conference. And listen, we all know that the conferences are stupid and the conference championships are going away. And look, you even got teams already talking about leaving and becoming independent. Number one, Michigan. Talking about becoming independent. So all these Michigan fans that hate Notre Dame and complaining, don't be in a conference, just join the conference. Now, what are you going to say when your guys bounce because they realize that it makes no sense and it's stupid to be in a conference?
So but then anyway, So if Notre Dame would have been in the ACC, which everybody's telling them to do, by the way, just join the ACC. You're the rest of your programs do it. Why don't you just do it? Okay. So if Notre Dame joins the ACC, they're in the ACC championship game this year. Then
they would have had one more win over Virginia. You're trying to tell me that really bolsters your schedule?
So Notre Dame would have been in the ACC championship game then. So then let me ask you this: Notre Dame's in the ACC this year. They go to the ACC championship and they win it. Well, does that mean? But okay. So you still take Miami too? Because then what would the conversation have been? They lost the head-to-head, but they won the conference.
Right, because then head-to-head wouldn't matter, right?
Then head-to-head wouldn't matter then.
On a game that's an extra game that doesn't matter because Alabama's still at 9, right?
So both games can't not matter.
This is why it's stupid. But let's also talk about this. So Miami's sitting there at 10, okay, with 2 losses. Let's be the idiots that are out there and that can't look past one specific data point. Okay, and let's do that. Miami has 2 losses. in a 12-game schedule. BYU had 1 loss in a 12-game schedule. So had BYU not played in that conference championship game, by the logic of these idiots that only look at one data point, BYU would jump Miami and should be at 10 and not Miami.
Yeah.
But BYU lost that game. It moved them down. But wait a minute. A loss in the championship game doesn't matter because Alabama's still at 9. What are we doing?
It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You can't. I mean, we're trying to break this down, and you would think that this is a parody, right? Like you would think that this is some sort of parody that we're breaking down, but this is real
like
life. This
Saturday
is what's
Night Live.
happening. It's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. And then you talk about like last year, like when you threw in your SMU in there, and you did, it was stupid. They lost to Penn State, which we all know has been a joke for the past however many years. This is what's going to happen. JMU is going to go into Eugene. They're going to get absolutely shellacked. And Tulane's going to go into Ole Miss and lose by 30 points again. That's exactly what's going to... Is that what you guys are really excited for? Oh, well, new teams, and they won their conference. What conference? The NAIA? Is that what JMU won?
And this is my thing. There needs to be divisions in college football. We already have the FCS championship playoff. We already have Division III playoff. We already have the NAIA playoff and everything else. We need to have the FBS, which is your Power 4, and then your Group of 5 needs to have their own playoff. Because let me ask you this question: wouldn't you? We live in the Midwest, so we know what the MAC is like.
Yeah.
We know what Western Michigan and Miami of Ohio and
Toledo
and Ohio and Toledo and Central Michigan and Northern Illinois and Buffalo and these teams. That's good football. Those teams know that if they don't make it to the MAC championship, then they're done. If they had a playoff, you trying to tell me it wouldn't be awesome to see those teams fighting for because high school does it, Division I, Division II, Division III, Division IV. You think that the Division IV high school state champion thinks that, well, we didn't really win a state championship. No, they won a state championship.
Yeah.
They get a banner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
And then we don't have to have these stupid JMUs and Tulanes in this playoff and leave out teams like BYU and Vanderbilt in Texas and Notre Dame.
So now that we've gotten that taken care of, there's that. So now that follows to this is the chain reaction. Now this is what happens, right? So now, and this goes back to earlier when we were talking about pulling coaches from teams and all this other kind of stuff. Iowa State isn't going to play in a bowl game because Campbell went to Penn State. So they're like, well, why would we play in a meaningless bowl game without a coach? So they're gonna they backed out. Also, so did Kansas State backed out too. Well, guess what the Big 12 did? They fined them both $500,000. They fined the program $500,000.
And the reason why? Because the Big 12 is going to lose out on bowl money. That's the only reason why they care. And it's stupid.
Because they have one team in the playoff.
Because why? And here's the other part of it too. You're going to find them for saying we're not going to play this game. Because, okay, let's look at it. What has everybody complained about over the last few years? If you don't make the playoff, how many of your starters and your best players opt out because they don't want to risk getting injured in a meaningless exhibition game for the NFL draft?
Right. So that's the other part of it too.
You're not putting your best team out there anyway.
Right. So this is what happens. Now with the way that this is, teams that are deserving that get left out, they're either going to back out of a bowl game or you're going to have their 8th string walk-ons out there for the whole game. That's what you're getting. Because the only thing that's worth it in college football is to play in this playoff. And if you can't even get those seedings right, now your bowl games, you thought your bowl games didn't matter before. Oh my! You might as well not even schedule them. You might as well not even play them.
And how about this? What you have the Pop-Tarts Bowl that has the 3rd string, so and so playing 3rd string so and so, which essentially amounts to a spring game. Or would you rather have the Pop-Tarts Bowl be the FCS championship game with James Madison and Tulane in it, playing their hearts out?
and giving them a trophy, a real banner. It doesn't make sense to me that this isn't even something that is being considered. Like, I don't understand why we continue to put ourselves in this situation. Everybody thought, well, 12 because we had our issues with the 14 playoff. Everybody
when Cincinnati
thought,
was in for the 12.
Cincinnati,
TCU. I mean, still TCU can be in, but Cincinnati had no business, right?
No. No, and so that's the thing. So you're doing this. Everybody had problems with the 14 playoffs. So okay, we're gonna make it a 12 team. This is gonna make things so much better, right? No, it's almost making things worse because now you're trying. The whole point of making it a 12 team was because teams that were deserving of the 14 were getting left out, and it felt like, well, there's just not enough room because you could flip flop the 4 that you picked and put the other 4 in, and it would be just as entertaining and whatever. And that's why they were like, okay, well, let's make it a 12 team. You're defeating the whole purpose of making it a 12 team by now all of a sudden saying head-to-heads don't matter, conference championships don't matter, we're throwing in JMU and Tulane and all this other kind of stuff. That is defeating the whole reason you expanded from a 4 to a 12 team is so teams like Texas, Notre Dame, BYU, Vanderbilt wouldn't get left out in situations like this. And you're doing it anyway to put 3-loss Alabama in, who lost their conference championship game, and to put in James Madison and Tulane.
Right.
So you've defeated the entire purpose of expanding to a 12-team playoff because you completely disregarded the whole reason you did it.
Exactly. And here's the other argument too of it, right? Like, so Miami's sitting there at 10. Okay. Look, again, let's take Notre Dame out of it. Okay, because I know what the comments are going to be because the ignorance runs amok all over this place. But let's take Notre Dame out of it, right? Let's look at Miami and Vanderbilt. Who should be as a 2-loss team that didn't make their conference champion? Okay, you had Miami in the ACC, which I think that there's a lot of those ACC teams that would struggle in the MAC. Okay, first of all, second of all. And then you had Vanderbilt was a 2-loss team that played in the SEC. Let's again look at what were Miami's 2 losses. Miami's 2 losses were to Louisville and SMU.
Both unranked.
Finished the season unranked. Let's look at who Vanderbilt's 2 losses were to. They lost to Alabama, number 9, and then they lost to Texas, who beat 3 top 10 teams.
By the way, that game against Texas was very close.
That was a 34-31 game. And and Vandy came roaring back and just ran out of time because they were going to win that game. So you're trying to tell me that Miami's more deserving than Vanderbilt?
Absolutely not. Not even a little bit.
Vanderbilt, if anything, Vanderbilt should be sitting at 10. Not Miami. Miami's a joke in this playoff.
And I think A&M is going to blow them out.
And again, like I said, I'm taking Notre Dame out of it.
Yeah.
I think BYU lost 2 games to Texas Tech, number 4. Same record, and 1 more game played than Miami. Vanderbilt and BYU, head and shoulders, should be sitting at 10 over Miami. That's a joke to have Miami there at 10.
Yeah, it is. It's pathetic. And A&M is going to roll them too. So 3 of your first round games are going to be blowouts.
Perfect.
And you could have all 4 of those games be awesome games.
Awesome games.
You could have BYU versus A&M. You could have Notre Dame versus Ole Miss. And you could have Texas versus Oregon, or you could have Vanderbilt. Instead, we're gonna watch Miami get rolled. We're gonna watch Tulane get rolled, and we're gonna watch James Madison get rolled.
And the only game in the first round that's going to be worth anything is going to be that Alabama-Oklahoma game, which we've already seen.
Right.
And this is what we're doing because of these stupid conferences and these stupid conference championship games and all this stuff. It's a joke. It's a joke what we're doing. And this is what we end up with.
It's horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. It's a shame. It's ruining college football because now you've got Iowa State, Kansas State, Notre Dame backing out of bowl games, and then you've got Texas and Michigan playing in the Cheez-It Bowl. Nobody from Texas is going to play. Nobody from Michigan is going to play.
Why would
that
you?
Why would you? And then you've got your other team, BYU's playing Georgia Tech in the the Jack Off Bowl. So then you got who's going to play? Nobody's going to play in that game either. And then Vanderbilt is playing Iowa in another bowl game that nobody. Why would anybody from Vanderbilt play? So if you're not backing out of a bowl game, none of your starters are playing. So people trying to be like, well, these teams are out, they're going to get good bowl game matchups. No, they're not, because bowl games that aren't in the playoff are irrelevant now. They are absolutely irrelevant unless, like you said, you make it a Tulane and James Madison Pop-Tart Bowl be that's the championship game, right?
For that division.
For that division, right? Or you take your
Right.
some of your MAC teams, make a, they have the MAC championship, but if you made some of these bowl games into a MAC playoff, right? You take your ReliaQuest Bowl, your Music City Bowl, your Cheez-It Bowl, and make those stages of a playoff for teams that because in all reality, like you said, there are ACC teams that would struggle in the MAC. James Madison, probably might be able to play in the MAC, and I think that would probably be cool, right? I feel like that's the type of level they're on. So
Right.
you're not going to throw a MAC team into playoff.
So look at Western Michigan won the MAC championship, right? I would love to see Western Michigan play James Madison. I think that would be a great game.
Yeah.
I would love to see them play Tulane. I think that would be a great game. I think Miami of Ohio, the team that lost in the MAC championship, would be a great game against both of those guys. You know what I mean? And it's pure silliness that we have to have them in the playoff. And especially when you have a Duke team that won their conference, a Power 4 conference,
Yeah.
but they're not in because they had 5 losses. Well, and here's the other thing about the conferences. Why do we even have if the conferences are so important and these conference championship games are so important, why do we have any sort of a tiebreaker system within anything that allows for a 5-loss team to be playing in a conference championship?
Right.
When you got your Miami, who supposedly everybody talks about how great Miami is sitting on the outside looking in with 2 losses to Louisville and SMU.
Right.
It's silly to me.
So your conference, so here's basically what the committee is saying right now. Conference championship games matter for teams that we want it to matter for.
Exactly. It matters. No. Conference championship games matter for teams that we don't necessarily want to deal with.
Correct.
BYU. Conference championship games don't matter at all for teams that we love and we want to be in. Bama.
Because it's all about money. It's all about money. It's all about branding.
Right.
It's all about, But again, here's JMU. What are you going to get out of JMU and Tulane? They don't have the money there. They don't have the branding there. They don't have the exposure there. What are you getting from that? You know what you're getting? You're getting blowouts in your first round games. Oregon and Ole Miss rolling both of them. They're going to roll both of them. So this is what you're going to look at. You're going to get Ohio State versus A&M. You're going to get Georgia versus Ole Miss. You're going to get Texas Tech versus Oregon, and then Indiana's that game's going to be a toss-up between Bama and Oklahoma.
That one's a coin flip.
So your best games. Why even play the first round? Why even play those 3 first-round games?
And here's the other part of it too, right? Let's talk about that Indiana Ohio State game. Let's talk about how these championship games matter so much, right? You're rewarding Indiana for beating Ohio State. And their reward is they have to play the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State gets the winner of Miami and A&M. If I'm Ohio State, I take that any day of the week. Absolutely.
In fact,
I wanna play Oklahoma
actually,
or Alabama in my first game in the playoff.
No. And actually, matter of fact, I would have liked to drop to 4. I would have loved to play the winner of JMU, Oregon, or even 3 Tulane, Ole Miss. I would have loved that. So in all reality, losing that game was the best thing that could happen for us. One, we had to have a loss at some point.
Further,
right? Because one, you have to have a loss at some point, right? We've won 16 games in a row, right? At some point, we needed a loss. That's just the way it works. So I'm glad we got it out of the way now, right? Number 2, we needed that, right? The team was kind of on a high horse. We were beating everybody. We ran the gauntlet in the playoff last year, and then we went all season. We needed that humbling experience, right? So we are beatable. All right, let's lock in now, right? We needed that. And also, now we don't have to play the winner of Oklahoma and Bama after having a bye week. So that would it have been cool to hold up the Big Ten trophy? Cool. Well, we've done it 30 times. I've seen it a million times. It's a rerun. Cool. It means
Been there,
nothing.
done
It
that.
means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Indiana, cool. It's your
Especially
first
now.
Big Ten championship in 187 years. Go for it. Awesome. You guys played great. But here's the thing. It almost fucked them because now they got the hardest game. They've got the hardest game
in the second
in this
round.
whole thing. And they're the one seed. That's the one seed, by the way. The one seed's supposed to be rewarded. The one seed's supposed to get your lowest seeded matchup.
And have the easiest path.
And have the
No,
easiest path.
You give them the hardest second round game.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
It's pathetic to me that this is a legitimate thing that is trademarked, patent, stamped, and this is what we're rolling with. And the committee thinks that they've done a fantastic job. And they think that this is, and to quote Vince McMahon, such good shit. That's what they think is going on right now. I mean, that's what it is. It's the committee is like Vince McMahon at the end of WWE doing the most asinine, ridiculous, silly storytelling and thinking that it was the greatest thing ever. So we need a Triple H to come in and change how things are being run because it's insanity to me that this is what we're dealing with. And now, think about it. Just take your first 4 teams out. Your first 4, your Notre Dame, your BYU, your Vanderbilt, your Texas. Those 4, mix and match them however you want. Those are fantastic games. Fantastic games.
Yeah.
And those all 4 games, mix and match however you wanted to do it, could have been in your first round. You're telling me that you want to talk about money, you want to talk about ratings, you want to talk about bringing in ticket sales and things like that. Try and explain to a JMU fan that they got to pay $600, $700 a piece to go watch that game.
So James Madison, you think they're going to travel to Oregon?
I mean, it's unbelievable. Tulane.
I mean, at least that's Ole Miss. They don't have to travel far, but still,
you
we
could
saw
have
that
had-
game already. We saw that game already.
And we already
We
know
know
what
how
happens.
that turns out. I mean, and that was a middle of the season thing. So it's not like, Tulane, got way better and started beating all. Look, it's unbelievable. It's just silly to me that this is where we're at. And let's tease it. I'll tease part 2 because I've got a fix for it. We're going to do away with this whole conference structure because the conference structure is a joke anyway. You got Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA in the Big Ten. You got the Big 12 that now has more Pac-12 teams than Big 12 teams when the conference was started. You got now all of a sudden the Mountain West is going to become the Pac-12 next year. You got SEC ballooning up to I don't know how many. You got more Southwest teams in the SEC than what the ACC is an absolute joke. Right? Like, what are we doing? You talk about your anchors of the ACC in Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, and they were all garbage this year, right? Like, so they're teams that fluctuate and all that stuff, and then the rest of it, everybody's talking about how Notre Dame had an easy schedule. Well, they played 6 ACC teams.
Unless they join the SEC, their schedule is not getting any harder.
By 30+ points.
Unless they join the SEC, their schedule's not getting any harder, which, by the way, they did beat an SEC team. They beat Arkansas. So your big, bad SEC, your big, bad SEC, they did schedule an SEC game. And here's the thing that people don't understand about Notre Dame's schedule, too. Well, if they just joined a conference, their schedule would be so different and da-da-da. First of all, no, it wouldn't. Second of all, you got to understand that they are going to play Stanford, USC, Navy, and Boston College every single year because those are rivalry games that date back to 100 years. They're not going to let go of those games.
Let's look
They're
at
just
it.
not.
Let's even put Notre Dame in the Big Ten because now we added these other 4 teams, right? Mm-hmm. We had Indiana. The only game on their schedule that was a tough game at the beginning of the year was Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're playing a Big Ten schedule, and that game ended up being a team that was 6-6,
And they almost lost.
right? So how is joining the Big Ten? Like you look at Ohio State, right? Look, Ohio State's schedule. I mean,
it's almost to a point where Ohio State needs to join the SEC because they're just going to boat race everybody every year. Because here's the thing, you're telling me So you're telling me, okay, so this is what's going to make Notre Dame haters so much happier, right? This is what they're asking for. Instead of playing Louisville, Duke, Boston College, Navy, instead of playing those guys, they want them to play Maryland, Rutgers, UCLA, and Minnesota. That's going to be so much better and so much harder.
Oh, it's that, but they're
way
gonna be
harder.
in a conference. But they would be in a conference doing that. It's a joke. It really is. I mean, I swear to God, the mouth breathers that talk about join a conference, like I mean, the dumbness is unbelievable.
It really is.
Because it really, I mean, that's what, unless you join the SEC, and even the SEC, you're looking at, like you said, the Mississippi States, the Arkansas and stuff like that.
The Missouri
bottom level,
yeah,
their bottom level, like, their mid tier is better than anybody else's mid tier, but it's still, there's a gap, right? And now listen, if you go back to the days when there was only 10 teams, then you had to play 7 of those 10 teams. Mm-hmm. So the chance of you having to play the top tier of your conference was very good. But now that you have 16, 18 teams and you have to play 7 of them, there's 11 teams in the conference that you're not going to play. Chances of you missing Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Indiana, whatever, are going to, like, you're going to end up with what? You know what I mean? Like, it's
silly. It's silly. It is. It's just absolutely silly.
It's a joke because, and then you say, oh well, then you would have a conference championship game. Oh really? Because Miami didn't make their conference championship game, and a 5-loss team did.
Right. But if Notre Dame joins a conference, then it solves everything. Because conference championship games are so important. Well, but they're not important. But they are important, though. But they're not important in this case. But they are important for this case. They're only important if Notre Dame joins it. But if Notre Dame doesn't, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like these people. The fact that they genuinely believe the bullshit that comes out of their mouth is hilarious.
It's just because they've been saying it for so long.
Right. All logic goes out the window.
And it's
all logic goes out the window.
You know what? That's whatever. And it's just dumb. And all this dumbness of what we're dealing with, and we end up with James Madison and Tulane and Miami in the playoff. When you could have had BYU and Vanderbilt and Notre Dame or Texas, or even let's go down the list. I mean even if Virginia is not any good or whatever, but Duke. You're trying to tell me? Duke, although Duke did lose to Tulane at one point this year, but still.
That because they're all in the same category of skill level.
They're that mid-tier.
They're that tier below Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame, BYU, Vanderbilt, Texas Tech, Ohio. Like, they're below all of that. They're below all of it. So that there needs to be that middle level, because what you're throwing them into this, and it's ridiculous. Like I said, this first round is going to be horrible. Who's going to watch it? The first round's going to be awful.
It's yeah.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but I would rather see Michigan in there than James Madison or Tulane.
Oh yeah,
I would.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Because now look, by that logic,
where we're at.
When you're throwing teams like Alabama, who's got a 3-loss, like, let's start pulling up all the other teams that have 3 losses. That apparently aren't as good as Notre Dame, BYU.
Well, Texas has 3 losses. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Texas has 3 losses. Michigan has 3 losses.
Yeah, Michigan has 3 losses.
USC.
Let's see, conference overall.
USC has 3 losses.
USC. Yep. So Michigan, USC, they have 3 losses. You're trying to tell me that Michigan, USC wouldn't be better than Tulane or JMU?
It's going down to the point to where there are literally 15 teams that would be in better shape in this and create more competitive football than JMU and Tulane.
So let's look at the Big 12 conference. Okay. Let's look at the big conference the standings here for football. We had
Arizona,
overall-
Arizona State. Who Arizona State beat Texas Tech, by the way.
Right.
That's their one loss.
Utah finished with 2 losses. Arizona had 3 losses. Houston had 3 losses. Again, those teams. Look at, would you rather have JMU or Tulane over those teams?
No, and that's the point. And the only reason we're going through these 3-loss teams is because obviously we take them. We're taking 3-loss teams now. So,
well, and not only that, but it's also shows the stupidity of forcing these other teams in. Right? Like we're forcing these teams in for whatever reason, right? Like Virginia, Georgia Tech had 3 losses.
Pitt.
It's silly to me, and this is why so everybody's saying, well, Notre Dame's out because they didn't play in a conference. Well, we just rattled off all these other teams that are out that should be above JMU in Tulane, and they're all in conferences. So being in a conference didn't really help these guys out.
Also, Oklahoma's in a conference, Texas A&M's in a conference, Miami's in a conference, Oregon's in a conference, Ole Miss is in a conference. All 5 of them, none of them went to their conference championship game, and they're in.
Right.
So, if Notre Dame joined a conference, they'd have a conference championship game to play to get them in the playoff. But 5 of the teams in your playoff didn't even play in their conference championship game. Yeah.
In all reality, you don't want to be. Look at last year. Ohio State wasn't in it, and they ran off and got right and had a home game and then won the championship. You got Oregon. Oregon's sitting pretty. Oregon's like awesome. I didn't want to play in that game, and then I get James Madison coming to me for round 1.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
Like Oregon's in the best spot of anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You got your bye by not having to not having to travel across the country to play in Indianapolis. You got a bye, and you got James Madison coming to your place.
Yeah.
And then you win, and you play the number 4 team, not the number 1 team. Oregon's in the best spot of anybody by not playing in the conference championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, join a conference. Win your conference championship.
It's the dumbest, stupidest thing in the history of the world to say.
It does you no good.
So,
winning your conference championship as the best team in the country gets you the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, awesome.
So
I would love to do that.
So there's our initial thoughts. All right, there are our initial thoughts about this. It's ridiculous. Make sure you guys are subscribed, notifications on, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, because we are going to do a part 2 of this where we find, after all the complaining we just did and after all the frustration we just let out, we're going to come up with a solution for it. So make sure you guys, like I said, subscribe, notifications on for the next part 2 of this that we're going to post later on this week that has the solution before these games coming up on the weekend. So
yep,
that's all we got.
Catch you on the flippity flip.